So thank you so much for joining us on Let the Healing Begin podcast. I'm your host, Asia. And today we have Roman Fischer on with us. How are you doing, Roman?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm great. So, whereabouts are you from?
Yeah, so initially I was born in Ohio, lived there about a few years in my childhood, but raised most of my life here in the, center part of the country, Arkansas, the middle of
Okay.
nowhere.
So how you like it there?
Honestly, it's a love-hate relationship, if I'm going to be real. But there's obviously good things to it if you look at like the natural beauty and I guess you could even say the chill, relaxed atmosphere is definitely abundant. It's definitely not a city type state. It's not like, you know, Illinois with Chicago or New York with New York City or anything. So it's definitely a lot more laid back and just relaxed. So that part's cool. It can get a little boring, a little
Yeah.
boring at times, but that's where I just try to get creative, innovative with things, and working out definitely helps keep me busy and occupied. Helping other people also keeps me occupied, and then I travel too, so I definitely get out of the state every now and then. So gotta do what you gotta do.
Absolutely. Where's your favorite vacation spot?
My favorite vacation spot. Man, it's hard because I've really been to so many different places. Now I haven't really like traveled the world per se, as far as like going to all these different countries that some people have gone to, but I have been to Canada, I've been to Mexico, and I've been to a lot of other parts in the US. I would say so far though, just from the vacations that I've taken so far, I would have to say honestly, California.
Really?
Yeah, I've been to Florida, which I like Florida in its own right. I've been to the Northeast. I can't say I'm, disappointed. I love Philadelphia, the food there, the atmosphere, and even New England is beautiful, especially seeing the fall foliage. But I would have to say California, all things considered, just the perfect year-round climate and weather, the palm trees, and also I just saw San Diego a few weeks ago for the first time. So that was a really, really neat experience to say the least.
Well, that's nice. So let's go back to your childhood. Tell me, what was that like for you?
Yeah, my childhood, that's obviously 25 now, but that was a little ways back. But when it all began, it was not a really rough childhood, luckily, from my remembrance of it. So that's good to know. But it was one of those things where I was moved from one place, being in the Midwest, where that's where a lot of my family was from, and then being brought from Ohio, part of the Midwest, all the way down to Arkansas. It was definitely a culture shock for my family, especially my parents, because they were living in the Midwest most of their life, and then they just came here, and my dad had his job transfer him here, so that's the whole cause of why we moved here. But that's what led to that. But before that, I really enjoyed Ohio. The neighbors that we had, we were really close to. My first friend, really close friend, was of course in Ohio. So that was a really rough situation leaving them, having grown up around them for all that time, playing video games and in the basement together. Like those were really good times and good memories for sure. But with that being said, it was a rough, transition, all things considered. But we adapted, and from there we experienced what was good of Arkansas. Obviously, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Being here, you experience everything, no matter where you're at, though. But that was one of the things, just trying to get adjusted and acclimated to the culture down here and how different life was. And not really to say that Ohio was super fast paced, but it was definitely a lot more fast paced than Arkansas. Arkansas is one of those states you just don't really rush to get anywhere. So that
Yeah.
was definitely a huge shift, a huge change for sure. But as time went on, though, we got adapted. And then I was always that guy that still loved to play video games. I remember growing up, I was always that guy that just loved just lounging around. I ate anything and everything in sight. Would just chill and play some video games with my family, with my friends. And that was a lot of my childhood, especially throughout, school and even up to high school. But it was right around high school, that's when all that changed. And I saw my brother, he got into fitness. My brother got into fitness. I saw him start lifting weights, going from more skinny to more muscular, and seeing that confidence, within him just shift in a good way, and boost and increase. And that really inspired me to want to change my body, change my life and what I was doing. So instead of just being that guy that played video games, which, hey, don't get me wrong, I still like them to this day, but I don't just play video games, all day, every day like I used to. I started getting more into fitness too, the fitness side of the world. And I really started focusing more on, how long I was working out, how often I was working out, what I was doing with my body, especially with, how active I was just in general. So that was a really huge shift and a really healthy shift, I would say, for myself. And I'm glad that I made that shift, because now I'm able to enjoy relaxing playing video games, but also getting up and getting out there and being active and being, one with the world too. So that was a huge thing. Beyond that, my grandpa, he was one of those people in my family that I grew up with, and I was really, really close to him. So this was a really hard, difficult thing to deal with. Having my grandpa, someone that I was super close with and super close to, just it was hard. But hearing the news from my mom, who she heard the news from her brothers in Wisconsin, and she got the news, sadly, that he passed away.
Mm.
And this was something that happened like right around the time when I was barely in my 20s. I think I was just 20 years old. And that's when all this went down. And then I got the news from her after she got the news from them. And that really, yeah, that really was hard to stomach. That was hard to deal with and comprehend, as most people would say. I mean, that's just not something that someone can just hear and be okay with, of course. So that was a rough thing, just thinking about it. It's really rough right now in a sense. But yeah, that's one of those things that got me um in that depression for that time, in
Hmm.
that, moment. But I will say, while that was hard to deal with, seeing him pass away due to cancer, which was linked due to his heavy sugar addiction, sadly, while that was hard to deal with, knowing all that, especially that it could have been prevented and he could have lived at least a little longer,
Yeah.
that while that was difficult, again, it also inspired me, though, to want to not go down that same path, that same road, that same route for myself and my own personal life. And
Yeah.
then from there, I didn't want anyone else to go down that same path. So, with that being said, I started really examining what I was eating, because I was a, huge sugar addict myself. So
Mm.
that really spoke to me in that regard. And I was thinking, I'm like, okay, he passed away. And he passed away due to that. Now, I probably am not going to pass away due to, some sugar every now and then, or even if I have a lot of it, it's not going to probably affect me for a while. But thinking long term, I was like, I don't want to keep going down that, rabbit hole that I've been going down, because
Yeah.
eventually it's going to lead to that sooner than later.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I didn't fully cut out sugar, but I started slowly cutting out sugar. And of course, it was a process. That was one of those things, especially as you grow up, you know, everyone's accustomed to sugar, especially here in the US. Like kids have it for Halloween, they have it for their birthdays. I mean, not
Hmm.
to say that you can't enjoy life, but that was one of those things that I grew up with, like most, kids my age. And it was hard to step away from because when you have a lot of sugar for so long, your body, it just gets used to it and it wants more because it's used to it and it's accustomed to it. So after so much, sugar addiction that after all that, sugar that I had and that heavy, heavy sugar addiction, I made that change, especially after the news of my grandpa, to not continue that same addiction any longer. And yeah, I just started slowly cutting it out and phasing it out of my life, out of my diet. And
Yeah.
what's crazy now is I'm 25 now, and I started cutting sugar out religiously around 18, 19. But I really got even more serious when I was 20. And from there, I stopped really ever since. I might only have like 5 grams of sugar that are added sugars in a day. It's crazy. But
So when
yeah,
you say, I'm sorry. So when you say you cut out sugars, was it only sweets or was it um pretty much anything that had sugar in it?
yeah, great question. So really anything that was added, like anything that was an added sugar.
Mhm.
Now, of course, even with natural sugars like fructose or fruit, that's better for you than added sugar by a long shot. But at the same time, you still want to limit that because too much of anything's bad. And so I still keep my sugars low, just all around. But what I was really, really cutting out, and what I really did cut out for the most part, was added sugars. Now, natural sugars are fine to an extent, but even
Mhm.
that you do want to limit to only a few cups a day
Oh,
of fruit. But yeah, that's what I really focused on cutting out was the added sugars, the processed sugars.
yeah. So when you started cutting that stuff out, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I felt honestly, I hate to say it, it wasn't an easy thing to really deal with. Honestly, I felt like that person that quit smoking and it was hard to stop. That's how I felt. Like it was something that I wanted to go back to right after I cut it out.
Hmm.
But that's when I learned that, because I here's what happened. I tried to cut it out right away,
Hmm.
and that's where I messed up initially. Um, but after trying that, I realized I still want to cut it out, but I want
Hmm.
to phase it out gradually.
Yeah.
So in doing so, after initially messing that up with my diet, because I wanted to just cut it out right away especially after the whole incident with my grandpa. But while that was true, I knew that wasn't probably realistic. So I tried to, intermittently cut it out or
Hmm.
just gradually cut it out. That's even the better word for it. And eventually, yeah, that's where I am today. And I felt like that was a better way to do it because when you cut something out or when you go cold turkey, it's hard to keep it out or
It
keep it
is.
out of your system because your body just wants to go right back to it.
Hmm.
So, yeah, just gradually cutting it out. That was my best, really my best method I took. And yeah, it's definitely worked though. But initially, I felt pretty antsy. I wanted to go back to eating Twizzlers, candies on the shelves, and anything on everything else for that matter. But after realizing that that wasn't the way to go, and just gradually cutting it out, I felt much better. I felt much more in control of what I was eating then.
Yeah, because it helps you build like discipline when you are like in the store and you want to get, that candy bar so bad or those Twizzlers, and you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. You got to kind of take it a day at a time. And you know what? I can relate because and it's so hard for me because I stopped drinking alcohol almost 2 years now, but it's like now since I'm not drinking the alcohol now, I like as soon as I stopped, I started craving actual sugar like candy and gum and cookies and stuff like that. And so I would get all sugared up and I'm like, I gotta stop doing that. So now, I've been trying to gradually like cut it completely out. Maybe a little ice cream here or there. Um, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
Let me ask you this. Say like if you do indulge in something, how do you give yourself like a cheat day per week, or how do you treat yourself for, being so disciplined?
Right. That's a great question. So I know you might hate me. A lot of people listening might hate me, but I don't typically have a cheat meal, actually. Not to say you can't have one. Obviously, you can still have one and be fine. As long as you're within your, calories each day of the week,
Mhm.
you're still going to get the results you want, even if you have a cheat meal that might go over a little of those calories. That's still fine once in a while, once a week.
Mhm.
But I don't personally have one because I just don't. That's what's so crazy. I just don't crave
Yeah.
sugar at all, like soda, candy, sugary cereals. I just don't crave any of it.
Yeah.
I only actually crave, it's crazy, man. Like so many people are gonna think I'm crazy, but I just don't crave apples. I don't crave, or I mean, I crave apples and
Mhm.
I crave vegetables, chicken, rice, like
Mhm.
the healthy stuff,
Yeah.
I don't crave all the, sugars and sodas.
That's good. That's really good. So I'm going to take it back a little bit. How old were you when your grandfather passed away?
Yes. So yeah, from what I'm remember, I was 20. Yeah.
Okay. And when you like went down into the depression, how did you manage to, I guess, like pick yourself back up? Was it the working out, or what other methods did you use?
Yes. So that's one of those things. Obviously at that time I was already consistent with like the fitness side of things, not so much the dieting, because that's when I was still trying to get a, handle on that. But how I got out of the depression, really, it wasn't something I instantly got out of by any means, but really working out, I would have to say, I mean, like most times in my life, that's been like my saving grace, so to speak. Working out, just going to the gym, even if it means just working out at home, even just whatever it would be. I mean, even just going for a walk outside for 20, 30 minutes at a time,
Yeah.
all that helped me tremendously. And of course, it didn't like take away what happened by any stretch of the imagination, but it really did help me in a sense come to terms with what happened, especially walking outside into nature and just being one with nature. I know that sounds so corny, but that was definitely one of those things
Mhm.
that helped me mentally. And some people might say that's a spiritual thing, but however you see that, that just helped me, period. And then in addition to that, of course, the weightlifting with the endorphins and just getting active, doing some cardio even after the weights, that also really helped pump me up and it helped me, yeah, just feel better. That's one of those things. You can't take away the pain completely, but you can fight through it and you can fight through it and you can feel better
Absolutely.
in the process. Yeah.
And like it's like when we lose people, the pain doesn't necessarily go away. I guess we just learn how to live with it. And like the whole one with nature, it's nothing corny about that. Like I guess I don't know if it's like the older that we get, or I don't know what it is, but it's something really like peaceful about like going outside, getting fresh air, just like not even worrying about anything for at least an hour, or just having that moment to unwind, not answering the phone and not, just not having a care in the world. Just taking a moment to like just step back and just appreciate the small things, like nature,
Exactly.
it's so fulfilling.
Yeah.
So, um, what was I gonna, oh, let me ask you this. So when you, how old were you when you got out on your own?
Yeah. So when I got out on my own, I was honestly, let's see, 22 actually. Yeah,
Mhm.
22.
Really? Were you in college?
No, I was going to trade school and was, yeah, just really involved in studying like fitness training and stuff of that nature.
Okay. So let's say it's a listener that may be dealing with some depression and they don't really know how to deal with it or don't know how to get out of it because like I've dealt with depression before and a lot of times like prior to that a lot of times you hear about depression but you don't know the severity of it until you actually go through it.
Right.
um, and it's like a lifestyle, you know, it's so it's different, you know. So if one of the listeners may be facing some depression, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say this is my best piece of advice that, it's temporary. Pain is temporary. Everything's temporary. But the pain here that you're feeling right now, no matter how small or how severe that pain might be and how severe it might feel, it's only ever temporary and it's not going to last forever. And just knowing that, that alone will help get you through it a lot easier. And then also, in addition to that, really just understanding that in in the midst of all your obstacles, in the midst of all your problems and issues that you might be going through, remember that there's no real bad days. Like there really are no bad days. There are just learning days. And I know that might sound crazy to some people, but really just knowing that you're always going to learn something. So even if a day doesn't go fully as planned, even if it doesn't pan out perfectly, so to speak, it's still going to be a learning experience. It's still going to be something that you can actually, see what went wrong and how you can make it better for the future. And that's winning in my book. That's really winning. And that's one of those things, even if a day is not perfect, you're at least going to come out even by knowing that you can make the next day that much better than what that day could have been.
Oh, that was good. That was good. And you know what, honestly, you know what helps me, like when I'm having my rough days, because we all have rough days, you know, that's just the way that life works. Like nothing goes our way all the time, you know.
Right.
One thing that helps me is like if I'm having a rough day, um, I always just stop and I'm like, I'm so grateful to even be alive to experience a rough day. You know, as so many people across the world that did not wake up or that are you know, getting the news of a lost loved one or a childhood friend, or, you know, you never know. And I'm like, I'm here to experience this rough day. I'm grateful, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, pain doesn't last always. It just hurts for a little bit. And then, you know, here comes a new day and we can just start fresh. Um, so have you always like had a sense of gratitude, or how did you gain that?
Yeah. So honestly, I was not really always very grateful for a lot of things. I'll just be totally transparent. I used to be very obviously things get people down and a lot of people down and things can get, me down still to an extent. Of course, we're all human. But back in the day, I used to get really down and I got really pessimistic,
Mhm.
even on, the smallest of things. Like the smallest of things would really upset me. You
Mhm.
know, people say don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Well, I was one of those people that that did that quite often, sadly, but luckily I've changed since then. But that was one of those things I always struggled with. But how I came to terms with not just acknowledging that was my past self, but how I overcame that completely was realizing, and I know they say this a lot, but seeing that other people had it, worse than I did. I mean, obviously there's some people that are wealthier than you or some people that are, more famous than you and stuff like that. And yeah, that can make people jealous, but knowing there's a lot of other people and really most of the world, it's crazy to think, but most of the world has it worse than us, which is really nuts if you think about it. Cause you really think that when our days aren't really great, so to speak, that we have it just the worst. But it's really nuts how some people have it that much worse than us. Yet those same said people are usually happier. It's kind of crazy how that works, just a little bit, but that really shocked me in my mindset. And that was one of the few core things and key things that actually shifted my mindset from thinking oftentimes more negative to more, positive. I mean, yes, sure, I like to be realistic on certain things, but I still like to be overall just optimistic and positive from day to day.
And you know what? It honestly, it helps. It just makes life that much easier, you know? And it's crazy. I just saw a TikTok the other day, and you know how they do those social experiments where, you know, they might see a person on the corner and they may, like, you know, ask them, is there anything that you need? Well, there was this guy, he was homeless, and the person that was recording this footage went up to him and asked him, you know, what can I do to make you happy, or what is it that you need? And the guy turned all of it down, and he's like, I'm happy the way that I am, you know. And it's astonishing, you know, like you said, oftentimes people that have it way worse than us are happy. And like, truthfully, that's one of my prayers. Like, I want, you know, learn how to be content in every situation, and all suffering, and all, like, everything, you know, because life is so short. And like you said, someone somewhere has it way worse, you
Yeah.
know. My mom used to tell me that all the time, because she would always get on me and my sister about complaining, and she would say, even on your worst day, is someone somewhere that wishes that they had it like you on your worst day.
Yeah.
And now the
Yeah. It's
older that I'm
crazy.
getting, I'm like, this is real life, you know? It
Yeah.
really is.
It's nuts. Yeah, it really is. And yeah, just really to understanding that a lot of the times when we do, get frustrated and even get to the point of complaining, I realized that that didn't really fix the problem. No matter how much you think it does. I mean, psychologically, there's something in our brain that it's kind of crazy, but some people think that it's going to change the situation. It's going to better the circumstance if we complain about it X amount of times. But it really it sucks, but it's a double negative because you're not only not going to fix the issue, but you're just going to stress yourself out in the process, making it actually worse. So realizing that too, that was one of those things that led me, especially being in health and fitness. I was like, okay, especially if I'm trying to be healthy, not just for other people, but for myself, even, I can't be stressed all the time. I can't let everything get to me. Because if that's going to be the case, I mean, first off, I'm going to be a hypocrite, but also in addition to that, I'm going to make it a lot harder for myself and everyone else around me. And then I'm also not going to fix my problems. So that was not a good, situation that I was in. So that really did shift my mindset too. That was another driving force.
Absolutely, because you know what, health starts within. So let me ask you this. Have you ever ran into clients where you've had to actually like give them that whole spiel on, like, you know, because some people are really just, you know, upset with life and the way it's going, and not to talk down on anyone, you know, because not
Yeah.
everyone is strong mentally, but how often do you have to tell people that?
Yeah. So it kind of varies from person to person, day to day.
Mhm.
Now, I'd have to say lately it's been more often than not. But hey, that's it's a good thing as far as like giving them that, push and motivation to think the other way. Granted, they had some really rough stuff they were dealing with. What they were telling me was pretty crazy to say the least. But with that being said, giving them that, not just the cheesy motivation, but the overall motivation and push that most people need in that situation, and having them just write down what they're grateful for, and even all the small things, anything like the small, big, and anything in between type stuff that they're grateful for. So that's another thing I do for my clients to help, especially in the situation that they've been in lately.
That's amazing. And you know what? It does help because like, when you put stuff on paper, even if you don't look at it like tomorrow or anything, you can look back at 6 months from now or a week or two from now, you know, when you're in a completely different space and you're like, wow, you know, those are really good things to be grateful for. Or, you know, I have much more than what I actually realize that I do to be
Oh
grateful
yeah.
for, you know. Um, so like with your fitness, okay, so you started getting into fitness personally. So what made you start accepting clients?
Yeah, so that's what really that's what really was cool about this whole journey. It's crazy. It's like one thing to the next. But what got me into fitness, of course, was everything I mentioned earlier with my brother, my grandpa.
Mhm.
But what got me into wanting to help other people out was not only not wanting other people to go down that same route, just like I didn't want to go down that same route that my grandpa did, but also just the positive effects that I felt after starting the journey for myself. And it was so addicting in a good way, but it was so addicting that I wanted to share that same, healthy, good, positive addiction with everyone else, starting with my sphere of influence. But then from there, I wanted to branch out and reach more people. And so this was crazy. I actually started my fitness coaching business really online, especially during, COVID. That's when I really got into starting the business. Literally in 2020, smackdown, like literally at the start of COVID. That's when I started my online business. And from there, yeah, I've just helped so many people. And I felt like that was the best way to do it, not just because of COVID, of course, with everything going online. Less people were going to the gym, of course, with everything shutting down. But also, in addition to that, knowing that I could reach so many people, through social media, it's crazy. Like you can connect with anyone, anywhere, at any time. So that was how that all came together, like a puzzle. But yeah.
That's amazing. So, um, so now do you do like in person and online?
Yeah, so I haven't really done much in person lately, but that is something that I offer my clients if they really want it and if it's something that they're able to do, especially if they're right near my area. That is something that I do offer.
Okay, so let's say someone books a consultation or whatnot with you. Like, can you walk us through the steps on what it looks like getting started with you?
Yeah. So of course it depends on the person, their overall fitness goals, what they want to achieve, and how long they want to, have it take, typically. But it usually is where they book a call with me. I do a 10, maybe 15-minute conversation, just get a really good, solid feel for their goals, everything they've tried, and anything that might be holding them back, any struggles that they may have had in the past, with trying to get to their goal. Beyond that, that is when I can better determine if they're, a good fit, if I can help them. And oftentimes they're a great, perfect fit. And then I can definitely help them from there. At that point, I set up a follow up call just to really dive in to how I can help them with their goals. And then from there, we just, see when they can start. And yeah, usually they can start within the next day or two at that point.
That's really good. So when people come to you, are they usually like self-motivated or have you had to play that role for them, like help them become more motivated?
Yeah, it's been a good, I'd say it's actually been a 50-50. It's been a even mix. I've had some people just come to me straight up and just want the results. So that's been cool. And then I've had some people that sometimes didn't always reach out to me, or they may have, but they weren't always the most motivated. And they just needed that initial push to either get started, with working out or just to keep, being consistent with their workouts.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So, um, so is this like your main job or what else do you do?
Yeah, so it's primarily what I do right now for a living. Now I do some, of course, acting, modeling when it comes up. Have a few agencies, two in Florida, one in Atlanta, one locally here too. But much of the auditions and work that does come my way is actually from Atlanta and Florida. And thinking about moving to Atlanta actually by the end of the year.
Really?
On that note, for the acting and modeling, type stuff going on.
I think you will be great at that. I think you will be great at that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So congratulations in advance.
Oh
Congratulations
yeah.
in advance. Yeah. So what made you want to get off into that? Is that something that you've been wanting to do for years or what led you to that?
Yeah, and that's a whole nother story in itself. So what got me into, modeling and acting was really first modeling. That's how it all came about. I've had
Mhm.
people say, "Oh yeah, I could see you on the cover of, Men's Fitness magazine," especially when I got into, fitness. That's when people started saying it. And then I had other people tell me too that, you know, you look like you could be on GQ and all this other, I thought it was crazy at first. I'm like, really? Okay, cool. And so I
Yeah.
just got into it then with my local photographer, and I branched out from there. And that's when I then also developed an interest in acting because my sister used to do some acting classes. So then remembering that with everything else that people were telling me, and some people would tell me literally that, I feel like you're going to be famous one day, and your
Yeah.
name sounds like it's a celebrity type name. I'm like, okay, I'll keep riding this high. And that's what really pushed me into really the realm of all this. And then ever since, I found it to be very, very fun, very intriguing. Just I really love the creativity aspect of that.
Yeah, I like that. Have you ever thought about starting a fitness magazine?
No, I have not. But hey, that is something I could do though.
Yeah. I think you got some great ideas.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely could see you like on a magazine or it's crazy when you said that. Yeah, because I definitely could see that. I definitely
Awesome.
could see that.
Heck yeah.
So, where do you want to see your business go in the next 5 to 10 years? Say, what's your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal with my business, I would have to say, really, other than obviously getting more clients, just helping more people out in the process, transforming more bodies, I would have to say, ultimately, getting a supplement line going too, workout gear. I also have that idea. And
Mhm.
then eventually, and this is the most ambitious of all, but opening up a gym and then eventually having it branch out and become like a chain, kind of like Gold's Gym.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Oh
super
yeah.
dope. That's super dope. That's major. Um, oh, so when you have clients coming to you, is it just workout plans or do you help them with like what they should eat? How does
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah, so it's definitely a mix of the two. I mean, if they're just wanting one or the two, I'll do that. Like I do sometimes just offer only one if they want that, but I always do offer both by default.
Okay. That's really good. So if people want to find you to work with you, where can we locate you?
Yes, so you can find me on a couple places on my social media or my website. My direct website link is romanfisherofficial.com. That's where you can see more about me, what I do, all the clients I've helped too with their testimonials and before and afters. Also, you can find me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube at Roman Fisher Official. Got it all locked in.
Okay. Well, you guys heard them. Go ahead and check them out. Thank you for that. I
Yeah, no
appreciate
doubt.
that. I appreciate that. So let me ask you one more question before we close this down. So with time frame, is it like solely up to the client or is it like 30, 60, 90 days? How is that set up?
Yeah, so depending on their goal, if they're trying to lose, I mean, typically, just again depends on their goal, but if they're trying to lose 20 pounds or more, especially more than 20 pounds, it's about 16 weeks usually
Okay.
as a default. If it's less than that, like 20 pounds and below, then it's about 12 weeks or 3 months.
Okay. Not bad. And you know what, that doesn't sound stressful because a lot of people think like when they think about like getting fit and just changing lifestyle habits, it can sound a bit intimidating for people that are not like that's not what they regularly do on a daily basis. But that doesn't sound so bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really good. You never want to lose too much weight too quick. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, got to lose this weight, got to do it quick, but
Yeah.
it's like you definitely got to take your time on it for best results, and that way you can keep the pounds off that way. But yeah.
I got one. I know I said that last question was the last question. I got one more. So what about people that are like not eating enough to try to keep weight off? What does that do to someone's body?
Yeah, so that's so crazy that a lot of people do that, honestly, because it does sound like it would be productive. It does sound like it would be beneficial, but really it's not good. If anything, it's counterproductive, believe it or not, and it will actually stall your metabolism. When
Mhm.
you eat too little, for so long, especially, that actually will stall your metabolism, making it harder to lose weight. And that's because your body goes into starvation mode. and wants to hold. Yeah, it just wants to hold on to anything and everything that it can. So eventually, it can actually burn muscle even.
Ooh.
And if you're not taking care of your body, not having enough protein and just enough nutrients.
Wow. I didn't know it was that. I didn't know. I know it was not good for us, but I didn't know it burns through muscle.
Yeah, it could definitely lead to that. Not right away. I mean, if you do it for a day or two, it's probably not gonna, hurt you too much. But if you do it long term for several weeks on end, it's not good for your body, and you're definitely not gonna lose fat that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Well, thank you everyone that tuned in. Before you guys go, please head over to www.greatergrowthllc.com. Check out the t-shirt and hoodie store. And then also support us by heading over to Amazon and purchasing a copy of Back in My Day by Asia Wilson. And until next time.